Okay, welcome back everyone. Let's take a look at the Module 4 Team Persuasive Business Communique Development Assignment number 1. This is the one that you completed earlier this week. As a team, reviewing this will certainly help you with the individual version, which you are currently working on. So let's go ahead and take a look at it and see if we can answer some of your questions. Again, here's the situation. The situation I gave you was a poorly written letter to a Dr. Thomas. Now, Dr. Thomas is a guru, management guru, if you wish, in certain areas of the management sciences. He wrote a book. You are representative of the GSU Business Awards banquet. What you need to do in this particular letter is invite Dr. Thomas to be the guest speaker for this banquet. Now, again, it's poorly written, but there is good information in here, and there's information that really you don't need to use and certainly should not use. But again, that's the gist of this particular invite letter. So let's move ahead here and take a look and see what we go. Again, before we do that, some specifics of this communique. Well, first of all, it is a letter inviting Dr. Thomas to be the guest speaker at this banquet. Okay, there is content for his and his review and some new information and so on. It is poorly written, as we may suspect at this point in time. But we need to remember the logical flow of persuasive messages. We need to evaluate the original and then determine, based on the logical flow of persuasive messages, what can and cannot be included in the rewrite. And again, we're going to do that here shortly. We have persuasive messages. The length depends upon, as usual, on the information that is needed. Excuse me here for things getting out of sync. I don't know what happened, but we'll go ahead and take a look. Again, the message, it can be a short message, it can be a long message. It depends. If we think about the two videos we saw, the Acorn stair lift video, which is persuasive for seniors, was, a 55-second commercial. The other for the life alert was 4 minutes. So again, it depends upon the message you want to give. But you do need to have some nice to knows or some nice to knows on occasion, but definitely the need to knows. And certainly you need to have your direct and your indirect benefits must be in there. As always, fluff is acceptable to some degree in persuasive messages. Now, again, here's out of the sync. Sorry about that. Remember, you need to convince Dr. Thomas to do something that he or she, we're not sure in this case, would ordinarily not want to do. So again, let's move on. Take a look here. Again, here's the letter. As we did in the past videos, I'm going to use green to indicate that which is probably worth keeping, and the red for that which is not. Taking a look at this again with the green in it. Dear Dr. Thomas, certainly the best way to start this off. We need to invite him, and we need to invite him to speak at the GSU Business Awards banquet on April 28th. Now, what is missing is the year. So again, that's something we'll need to include in there. We do need to mention that something about students on campus have read and admired the book, Beyond Race and Gender. So that would be certainly something that could be an indirect benefit. It is a bestseller. Again, another benefit that we probably should include. We need to include that he is the nation's diversity management guru. Again, another benefit, probably indirect, but that's still a benefit. And we need to mention, probably to help him focus in on where, or the topic area is this concept of America is a mulligan stew. Again, so that might be able to give him his topic for the presentation. Doesn't hurt to mention there are no honorariums, no money for his being a guest speaker. However, we can mention that other elite individuals from the Atlanta area, the Reverend Jones, the Vice Mayor Timmons were speakers in the past. That's good to state. Again, those could be considered benefits if we can make the correlation for intrinsic or indirect benefits. Again, we should also mention the specifics of the award banquet, the starting times, the dinner times, the presentation times. Certainly should be included in there. Transportation. Definitely it would be a direct benefit. Don't worry about parking, don't worry about the driving. We can come pick you up. Definitely something to consider. Again, some part of the closing, we can suggest that he is very busy, and we hope he will agree to accept the invitation. That is certainly a plausible thing to include. And also mentioning about the advisor, Professor Alexa North. Work that in somewhere, again, probably in the closing. Okay, now let's take a look at why we're going to dump some of the red stuff in here. Well, again, because Atlantean live here is certainly not a reason for him to jump for joy and say, geez, yes, I will do this. Actually, it can be kind of a slam. So we need to be careful about that. I notice here that in blue is a few students. Well, we need to, that should have been in red, my apologies. Anything that kind of limits us, numbers, limitations and suggestions, a few of students. Few is a small number. So stating that even though he is has a bestseller and he's the guru and the people around the nation recognize him for this, we're only saying a few students. So again, a few, got to go. Find another way of mentioning students. Again, we're amazed that a local author, again, it's kind of a slam on Atlanta and possibly Dr. Thomas. Again, they're raising the question, what did you mean by this American Mulligan Stew? Again, this needs to be eliminated simply because it suggests no one has a clue what he's talking about. We can only invite local speakers. Dump that. Don't need that. Certainly not a very positive thing to suggest to him. With regards to transportation, if you require, that's got to go. Because what that does is put Dr. Thomas in a position to call and say, yes, I need a ride. Don't do that. If the offer is there, if the availability is there, just give it to him. And then finally, thank in advance. Now, we can thank someone, but don't thank them in advance for doing something they haven't done. And I got this, please notify. Again, with these types of letters, as I've used the analogy before, you're driving the bus. So from the very beginning, you're driving the bus, you're saying what you need, what you don't need. But then at the very end, we kind of say, okay, your turn, you drive. So what we're saying here, if we keep it the way it is you're having Dr. Thomas call, make an action to confirm her participation, and this again is passing along the power, the control of the situation. So instead, we got to figure out how do we continue with the control. So let's move on. Take a look at some possible rewrites. Actually, some things we want to think about first is the formatting. Again, the opening should gain attention. Now, that could be a compliment, could be a problem, could be a question, could be praise, could be numbers, could be short stories. Any number of things that we can use. If you remember back to the Life Alert, there was a story. With the Acorn Stair Lift, it was a question. So again, you need something to catch the reader's interest and keep them reading on. The body generally has two parts. Doesn't mean two paragraphs, but they could be two paragraphs. You could put this in one. The first is to build the interest, present the facts, develop the credibility, maybe the benefits, talk about the benefits. You raise the question, you pull them in, and then you're going to talk about the specifics. Next, we're going to talk about is that resistance thing. Everyone's going to think, well, geez, I'm not so sure. You got to address the I'm not so sure aspect of it. Finally, the closing. Precise requests, specific deadlines, okay? If necessary, repeat the benefits. So with this in mind, let's take a look at a possible rewrite. The opening, again, gaining attention. And what I've got here is very simple. Yours, there can be written totally different, but this is the approach I took. And I'm looking at capitalizing on his success. So I start very, very positive. Congratulations with the success of your book, Beyond Race and Gender. It has stimulated provocative discussion across the nation and with the student body on our campus when it first appeared last spring. Again, the very positive congratulations, that's the indirect warm fuzzies he's getting. And then it also talks about the provocative discussion, meaning people are thinking about this, not only across the nation, but the student body, eliminating the few students, but the student body. Leave it up to his imagination, her imagination. What are we talking about number-wise? Let their imagination go with it. Next. Here's the body. Now we're moved on. I got his attention. We're going to move on. And I kind of looked at this two different ways. This is the interest. Mine's a little on the longer side, but that's okay. It says, business students at Georgia State University now consider you the nation's diversity management guru. And for that reason, they asked me to use all of my powers of persuasion in this invitation. Two benefits in there. First of all, we've got the students consider him, her, the guru, and then they want me to use all of my powers, which again be considered an indirect benefit. Because we admire your work, we would like you to be our guest speaker. Okay, so I actually put the invitation in there. Gave them a lot of sugar, if you wish, and then boom, this is why, this is what we want. Because of this is what we want you to do. Moving on, a little more of the interest. As students at an urban campus in a metropolitan area, it talks about specifically, the book apparently talks about specifically about issues that are surrounded in an urban area. So I'm mentioning, because we are students, so they are students in an urban campus in a metropolitan area, they're keenly aware of the diversity issues. In your words, America is no longer a melting pot of the ethnic groups. It is now an American mulligan stew. Again, focusing on what I wanted to talk about, we would like to hear more about this concept and how it relates to the business community. So again, I'm not only praising him, her, but I'm also suggesting the topic for the presentation. Excuse me. Onward. Okay, we gave him the sugar, the spice. Okay, we kind of got him hooked. She may be thinking, well, I'm not so sure. Now we're going to go ahead and we're going to kind of break down a little bit of resistance here. Though we can't offer you an honorarium, we can promise you a fine dinner at the GSU Faculty Club and an eager and appreciative audience of over 100 business students and faculty. Now, I did put an actual number of 100 in there. You could have left it open and just say an audience of business students and faculty. 100, it's a pretty good number, so I go ahead and use that. That is a direct benefit. The indirect, or excuse me, that's an indirect benefit. The direct benefit was the wonderful dinner or the fine dinner. So again, more benefits in here. Keep them coming. Speakers in the past included, and again, more benefits, suggesting that he is part of this group, this caliber of speakers. So again, an indirect benefit here. Now the specifics, about the details you got to give. The starting time. The evening includes a social hour at 6 p.m., dinner at 7, and your remarks from 8:30 until 9 p.m. Again, the very specifics needs to know. So now here's another benefit. How do I deal with the transportation? So you won't have to worry about transportation or parking. We will arrange a limousine for you and your guests. Again, if it's available, if it can be available, make it available. Why pull back? Why hold back here when you can throw all the stops out? Move on. Finally, here is the closing, a precise request. Please accept our invitation and make this the most memorable, and I would use graphic highlight here, most memorable. That's very, very powerful. Again, another benefit. Banquet yet. Our advisor, Professor Alexa North, will call you. Remember, we were talking about driving the bus. The previous way, you gave Thomas the reins, the driver's seat. You want to keep it. So in this case, your Alexa North will call you, and I gave a specific date, to answer any questions you may have and seek acceptance of this invitation. Thank you. Can you use that? Sure. Wouldn't thank in advance. We can certainly say thank you. And then sincerely yours and whatever the ending would be. Anyways, so how does it look? Well, this is how it would look. Again, it would be a relatively long letter, but there was a lot of stuff that I included. Did I need to include all of it? Absolutely not. There's a lot of direct, a lot of indirect benefits. I could have pared them down, but just to give you an example that it doesn't hurt to add in persuasion a lot of positive direct, indirect benefits. Anyway, so this is how it would look. You'd have a letterhead, you would have your signature block at the bottom, and there you go. As always, if you got any questions, again, this might be helpful for you. Consider these things I talked about, and may be helpful for you as you develop your individual persuasive message. That's it for now. Questions, as always, you know how to get a hold of me. Take care.